Nothing quite puts me in the mood for Christmas like the nostalgic notes from A Charlie Brown Christmas by the Vince Guaraldi Trio. And this is the time of year when so many of my piano playing friends play jazz for the first time, but what they're missing is that authentic jazz sound. So today we're going to take 3 of Vince Guaraldi's signature jazz moves and we're going to apply them to a song that was not in Charlie Brown, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So the first thing to notice about Guaraldi's playing is the swing feel. Sometimes we get all carried away thinking about jazz being big fancy chords and scales, but the reality is the swing feel is the DNA of jazz. And in my experience, classical musicians really struggle to get an authentic feel, so I want to show you how I teach it. Now, so many of my friends who play the piano have the Charlie Brown Christmas sheet music at home, and they open up the book and they play it like this. And that's all well and good and fun for the holidays, but it doesn't really sound like Vince Guaraldi, does it? It doesn't have that swing feel. And one really common way to think about this is to turn our eighth notes into triplets. So instead of 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, we're going to be thinking triplet, 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 dump, 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 dump. But even this is still too square. It doesn't really swing authentically. We call this a swing feel because it's much easier for us to feel it than it is to try and notate it precisely and count it. And on top of that, Vince Guaraldi's swing feel might be slightly different than Oscar Peterson's swing feel or from Bill Evans' swing feel. The swing feel is such a personal part of the artistry of playing jazz. So when I'm trying to match the feel of somebody like Vince Guaraldi, what I'm going to listen for is what's the groove underneath it? Maybe listening to the drummer would help, and you can start to hear the way that they play their eighth notes. Like if you listen to the brushes on the snare drum, you hear ching, chak, ching, chak, ching, chak, ching, chak. And you're going to take the way that this feels, and you're going to translate that to the way that you're subdividing your eighth notes, and you get something like this. Now, if you go back and listen to the soundtrack, you'll notice that as Vince develops this song, he moves it from 3/4 into 4/4, like I just did there, and it gives it a little bit more of that jazzy swing. Now, as I'm feeling this groove in here and playing along with it, you might notice that I instinctively move the melody notes around rhythmically so that important notes of the melody, like the start or the end of phrases, will actually fall on the offbeats instead of the downbeats. See, so much of our swing feel comes from the offbeats, and so by moving the melody around like that, we can imply that swing feel in the melodic line itself. So let's take a look at Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, which we're trying to swing like Vince Guaraldi. Let's look at just the first couple measures, and you see it's written perfectly straight. So to get that swing feel, first we got to feel it right in here. And now we think about how does the melody going to fit over top of it. Do da do da do da do da do da. Here I'm syncopating it. This rhythm by itself helps out a lot, right? But with such simple chords, it doesn't really sound like Vince Guaraldi. To get that kind of hip jazzy sound, we need to be really specific and match the way that we voice our chords to the kind of chords that Vince would play. Now, before I show you these voicings, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, the Quartet app, which is my favorite app for practicing jazz at home. And just in time for the holidays, Quartet has released Volume 5, which is full of great holiday recordings like the one we're playing over here for Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Inside the Quartet app, you'll find over 500 jazz backing tracks, inspired by famous recordings, played live by some really great jazz musicians. Each instrument is recorded separately, so you can turn down your instrument and then play it for yourself. But one of my favorite features is that each song comes with a horn player that's soloing over the changes. That way, as a piano player, I can practice comping behind a real soloing musician, not some lame AI algorithmic soloist. The best way to get Quartet is to head to the Apple App Store on your iPhone or your iPad and buy all 5 packs together as a bundle. The apps will run on your iPhone or your iPad, and if you have a Mac that you bought in the last few years with one of those M-series chips, you can run the apps there too. There's a link down in the description below this video to grab your copy. But let's talk about these voicings, because right now, even with the perfect swing feel, the chords are going to sound really thin and basic. Guaraldi's secret is that he spreads his voicings out across both hands, and he leaves the root out. Now that sounds complicated, but I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. Now, there are many methods and infinite ways to play jazz chords, but I'm going to show you one kind of tried and true simple formula that you can use to get started. So let's take a look here at Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. So we're going to spread these voicings out across both hands, which means we're going to play some notes in our left hand and some in our right, 2 in each. In our left hand, we're going to play not the root, we're playing rootless, but we're going to play the 3rd and the 7th of the chord. So for F major, our 3rd is A, and our 7th is E. So we're going to play those 2 in our left hand. And then in our right hand, we're going to play the 5th and the 9th. And I've just kind of voiced them here together. This gives us a formula called 3-7-9-5. 3 and 7 in our left hand, 9 and 5 in our right hand. Now there are 2 ways to play these chords because we could take these notes and flip-flop them in our hands, meaning instead of playing A and E, the 3rd and the 7th, instead we could take the E off the top, put it on the bottom, and now play 7 and 3. It's the same 2 notes, just in the other order. And when we do that, we're going to do the same thing in our right hand. So instead of playing G and C, the 9 and the 5, right, we're going to take C off the top and put it down here, and now we get 5 and 9. We can follow the exact same logic to find D minor, right? Here's our D, come up to the 3rd, play 3 and 7 in our left hand, that's F and C. And then in our right hand, we're gonna play 9 and 5, E and A. And there's one option for D minor. And again, we can flip both of our hands up, right? And we get this option. Now, when we get to dominant chords like this C7 here on the 2nd line, we're gonna do exactly the same thing. Start on C, find the 3rd, that's E, our 7, B flat, our 9, D, and our 5, G. Now to get a little bit more of that nice, tense, dominant chord, jazzy sound, we're gonna make one little teeny tiny tweak. Is we're gonna take the 5th, G, we're gonna move it up a whole step to the 6th. This is actually called the 13th. And it gives us such a nice, rich, jazzy color. This is gonna become really important in a minute when I show you how to do some fancier stuff with this. Now, can we really get away with not playing the root? Don't we need to have a bass underneath it? Well, hopefully you have somebody really cool in your family that plays the upright bass and they can do that for you. But every once in a while, you might want to reach down, hit the root, and then come up and play your chord. So once you've got that, you're going to try and put the melody note on top of the chords. And when you do this, you're going to have to get a little creative because you might have to adjust these voicings slightly to make the top note fit well. So here on F major, we have F on top. So here's what our voicing would be, right? 3, 7, 9, 5 with the G on top. But our melody note is F. So we're just going to move that G down to F. There's our voicing. Now for the D minor, we've got a C on top. That's our melody note. And our voicing fits under it just fine. And then for G minor, here's our G minor voicing. And we can put C on top of it, no problem. So trust your ear. As you're playing through these, your ear will tell you whether or not you need to remove that top note or not. You're a good musician. Trust what you hear. So now we're getting somewhere. This sounds much more lush, but it's still not breathing and moving like Guaraldi's does. To do that, we're going to introduce one more technique. So here's a trick that Guaraldi does all the time. He basically takes a dominant chord and he splits it into 2 different versions. So if we're looking at a C7 chord, here is kind of our voicing. We got the root and then 3, 7, 9, and instead of 5, we move up a note and get that 6, or we call it the 13. Right, there's our C7 dominant chord. And so the first thing that Guaraldi will do will be play the chord just like this, and then he'll move it to something more complex like this. So as we move from a simple version of this chord to one that's more complex, we call it an altered dominant. This creates this like ramp up of tension that we then get to release so satisfyingly here, right, to F major. So let me show you how to make that tension chord. First, starting with our basic C7. So that's E, B flat, D, and A. And then either one of the notes in our right hand can move by a half step in either direction. So if we take this D and let's move it down to D flat. And this gets us a C7 flat 9 chord. Or let's do it again. This time we move the D up to D sharp. This gets us a C7 sharp 9. Or we could take the A, we can move it down. That gets us a C7 flat 13. Or you could take the A and move it up. This is kind of the most boring one and the one we don't really hear about, because moving the A up to B flat is a note we're already playing. It's doubling that B flat. So check it out. In this one line, he does it twice. Here it is. And then the sharp 9 flat 13. And then he does it again here. C7, flat 9. So the fun part about this is that you get to experiment with different combinations of those three. Each combination has its own unique sound, and as you explore them, you'll be able to express yourself creatively in different ways. Let's take a look at our tune, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and see if we could find a spot where we could do this. We've got a C7 right here in our second phrase. We've got G minor to C7. This is our C7 chord, right? 3, 7, 9, 13, the same chord. And maybe we move it the same way. So we'll go up to sharp 9, down to flat 13. Okay, so now at this point, you know all three of these Charlie Brown signature moves: the swing feel, the spread voicings, and then these dominant chord movements. But here's the thing, knowing these ingredients is not the same thing as knowing how to cook. The real magic is knowing how to weave these three things together smoothly so that it sounds effortless. Maybe something like this. Now the cool thing about this is that these signature moves can be used for a lot more than just Christmas carols. You can use them to jazz up your favorite pop songs, your favorite church hymns, or even the songs that you play to put your kids to sleep. If you want to go deeper on the music of Charlie Brown, I've done 2 other videos that you can watch here next.